We live in an era where parks are just a part of life, but you go back into the 1800s and parks were not just a part of life. And you had movements around the country, whether it was for the national parks, which predated state parks, or this state park, which is the oldest state park in the nation here at Niagara Falls. You had a change going on in America. You had industrialization happening as a force that was chewing up real estate everywhere, especially along rivers, especially along fast-moving, powerful rivers like the Niagara. So what you ended up with, it was a force that was starting around this country, which is we need to preserve, we need to conserve open space, scenic beauty. And what you have here at Niagara was an effort that really came out of the grassroots, coming out around the late 1860s. The Niagara Association, they orchestrated what even by today's standards would be a remarkable political organization in terms of swaying public opinion. At a time where television was never even thought of, movies weren't even out. So you really had an era which was driven by the newsprint and by mail. And they were able to reach people of influence all over New York State, all over the country, to create a mindset that we really need to preserve the beauty which is here. And they were able to pull enough players together, and it wasn't easy. It was from 1869 when the first meeting happened here in Niagara to try to get this going, to 1883 when the legislation was signed creating the Niagara Reservation. That period of time, there were ups and downs. There was push and pull. There was a lot of folks moving to try to get this done, but it was not an overnight sensation by any shake of the imagination. And you really had to, if you look at the players that were involved, you really know that they worked long and hard and made this a passion, a life's direction to make this happen.
And who was hired to make this park? Who of all the people they could have hired? The best. Frederick Law Olmsted, the most famous landscape architect in our country's history.
And he talked about how there was that feeling that when you were there, that there was just this expanse of the world around you. And he equated it to being in the ocean, and that you saw this water rushing at you, and that you couldn't get that experience somewhere else. It only happened when you were here on that, at that park and in that island. And that was what he wanted to maximize.
Niagara Falls, the ultimate torture test for a deck. The ultimate protection, Thompson's WaterSeal, chosen to protect the most water-drenched decks in America. The decks at Niagara Falls. Thompson's WaterSeal, the most powerful protection against water damage, guaranteed.
Olmsted was one of the original people that came together that drove the movement to preserve this land and to make this available free to the public in perpetuity. So I think he really kind of had a inside track in some ways, but I also believe he was considered even at that point to be the leading landscape architect in America for designing open spaces. His work that he and Calvert Vaux had done in New York City, especially at Central Park, the work he'd done with Buffalo and his park system as well. When you put all those things together, you've got a guy who was no stranger to Western New York. You got a guy who really believed that preserving this property here at Niagara was key.
While the park has stayed as true to Olmsted's natural vision as possible, change to the landscape has been inevitable as the number of visitors has increased.
It looks very different from when Olmsted designed it, but understand it's been about 125 years now, and so nature has changed in 125 years. A whole part of Goat Island is from the 60s. It's a fill. So yes, it is in that aspect it has changed. But I think that Olmsted and any landscape architect would anticipate that.
Louis' Restaurant was a Niagara Falls institution and was opened in the park to meet the demands of the visitors.
They ended up getting the concession here on Goat Island and in the park for many years in the early part of the 20th century. And the place they had here on Goat Island was quaint, not very big. You could eat outside. They only served snacks, candy bars and soda pop and things like that. But it was a place for people to relax and to have some beverage and something to drink. And the building was very attractive. And it's been replaced with the new building we have here now, the Top of the Falls Restaurant.
Adolph Glemm began a 75-year career at the park, working at Louis'. Adolph's wife, Mary, was employed in the various gift shops of the park for 50 years.
So I was working, like on Saturdays and Sundays, I would work over there, busting and everything out. And later on I got to be a soda boy, making sodas, ice cream, sundaes and everything. And it came on year after year, and I enjoyed it.